It is a cool August Monday morning here at the property, and we're about to start something big today. As you can see, we have this very large excavator, a beautiful Cat 323F that belongs to Travis, who is the one who did all of our right-of-way clearing. And we brought him back today to start digging out all the stumps on this property, and as well put in our 600+ foot long driveway extension, bringing our total driveway length to around a quarter mile. Additionally, I'm getting our septic perk test done this week while this machine's out here to dig the pits. So that will tell us what type of septic system we need to have and how large it needs to be. So I'm pretty stoked to see this thing working. It's really the best machine you can have for digging out stumps. There's nothing really that beats just a large excavator. And it should make pretty short work of the probably 80+ stumps we have on the property to dig up today. I took off pretty much all this week to help Travis out and oversee what's going on here, and I probably will be working on the skid steer a good bit while Travis is working and helping him relocate stumps and that sort of thing. Here's the before shot of our driveway. I gotta admit, it's really pretty with the grass growing up through the middle, but I will admit it is not smooth whatsoever. Additionally, we're going downhill here, probably like 4 or 5% grade. So these two tire tracks become just little streams when we get hard rains, and that is not ideal. So when we put this driveway in, we're actually going to put a cross slope on it and have a ditch over on the right side here to help control erosion. This stump by the entrance was actually one of the biggest ones on the property. It was 2 trees growing together, which made a stump size of like 4 or 5 foot in diameter, and a root ball over double that. At the end of day 1, the guys got a bit of a late start. They didn't really actually start digging until like 2 o'clock this afternoon, and even still they got like 15 pretty big stumps out. They had to finish up a couple jobs, and the compactor that we're going to be using for the driveway actually was leaking hydraulic fluid, so they had to fix that before they came over. But once they got to work, these machines worked. Travis was in the dozer working on our driveway, and his worker Ryan was in the excavator ripping out stumps and piling them up. We have a bonfire going right now to try to burn them down a little bit. Then I think we're gonna just dig a big hole and put them in there. I just want to show you the scale of some of these stumps. I'm 5'9", so this is probably a good 8-foot diameter root ball, and I don't even want to know what this thing weighs, but that machine picked it up like it was pretty much nothing. It did work a little bit digging this out and getting it out of the hole, but it'll move it around like nothing. A stump this big really will never burn until it's fully split up, but we'll do what we can and then we'll have to just bury the rest. I hope to one day earn as much money as these two machines sitting here cost. And we can't forget about the little roller, which Travis said gets used like 2 or 3 times a year, and that's the reason it usually breaks the first time he takes it out in a while. Here's some progress on the driveway. So Travis was able to get started about halfway down here. This is about a 380-foot stretch all the way up to here, this tree here. And then it's going to continue another 200 plus foot all the way up to our pad. This is going to slope down this way to the left, around 4 to 6%. And this right here is sort of a drainage trench that we're putting in, so water will just run downhill in this trench and not right over the driveway. After we take all the topsoil off here, we will have that 12 inches or so of compacted 2A with stone, which is essentially 2-inch top size all the way down to silt and fines. And once that is all compacted in layers, we'll put the finishing touches on the trench and reseed that. Of course, we'll compact the subgrade here before we put down the driveway fabric, and then the stones will go on. And also a little update on the skid steer. This machine is going to be staying here for a good bit longer because I actually bought it. I talked to my old boss who was looking to sell it, and made him an offer, $10,000 for the machine with the smooth bucket, which I thought was fair and reasonable. It's a very lightly used machine. It's not the biggest, but it's perfect for this situation here, trying to navigate in and out of trees. And it has picked up pretty much everything I've asked it to so far. So I'm pretty happy with it, and I plan on taking really good care of it. My boss asked if he could borrow it anytime, and that is fine by me if he ever needs to use it for niche tasks where his big machine doesn't work. Then he's absolutely welcome to it. He did need the grapple that he let me borrow back though, so I actually went to the auction house this week and bought this, which is a brand new rock grapple from Mid-State Attachments, and I think all out the door this thing was like 1,400 bucks too, so definitely not cheap. Spent a lot of money this past week, and that does not include any of the construction work on the driveway, so needless to say, Elena wasn't super happy, but we're gonna make it work. I think this is money well spent. I mean, we're gonna be on this property for a long time, and for moving logs around and all the various little tasks of, moving dirt and rocks and everything else, it is really handy to have a machine like this. My tractor can kind of get it done. It would literally take me years to do with my tractor what this thing could do in days. So this machine is just a lot more powerful, and I think it'll be a good investment in the long run. I wanted to go through my actual plan for the driveway too, because I do think about these things a lot before we actually make any action, and I try to put it down on paper too, similarly to how I'm doing the house plan. So this is our somewhat official site plan. I'm just talking about the driveway right now. This is just our property. Really over here, this extends to the right about 1,200 foot until the road. But basically, this is kind of how it's gonna get laid out. I think we're actually gonna twist our orientation of the house just a little bit to the left, so it's not parallel with the property line like we were imagining. But this is gonna give you an idea of the driveway coming up, and then there's gonna be a large pad in order to turn around at the top. Now this is some PowerPoint engineering I did in order to help just communicate to our excavator what was going on here. Here's the existing driveway, which goes towards the road about another 1/8 of a mile that way. And then we have this 25-foot wide right of way here, which has been marked with these pink stakes all the way up to our corner pin where our property actually starts. So this is about a 380-foot long section plus 200 plus-ish foot. And then the pad. So needless to say, we're going to be doing a lot of excavation and a lot of stonework. But this basically shows the overhead plan view. We're reserving about an 8-foot strip for our electric trench. The driveways would be about 10 foot wide, and then there's going to be some drainage here to the left going into this little seepage pit. And I actually cleared it with the farmer in order to put this in, because of course it is not technically within our right of way, but he was good with it. And it's basically just going to be a place for all the excess stormwater to accumulate and seep into the ground when we get those really heavy rains. And this is a cross-section view looking up the hill. So I did a lot of research on how to best structure our drainage, make sure our driveway doesn't wash out when it gets heavily rained upon, since it is coming down about a 6% slope. And all the sources that I found, which are through Penn State and some other universities that have done studies on dirt and gravel roads, basically just say you got to have a slope for the water to run down, and it's got to be correct. So for gravel roads, it's about a 1/2 to 3/4 inch per foot drop, and we'll just basically do a large compacted layer of stone on top of that. Between the stone and the compacted dirt will be some woven geotextile fabric, and that just allows the stone and dirt to stay where they're at and not to ever mix in between, because that's how you start just losing stone and get ruts started. So you can see the same pink boundary markers here, and this is sort of how the layout's going to look when it's all said and done as a cross section.
At this point, most of the stumps have been pulled up. And the driveway is nearly ready for stone.
It is now the morning of day 3. Yesterday the guys made quite a bit of progress. They pretty much finished the stumping on this half of the lot, and then Travis went over it with the dozer quick and started grading things out. Last night, Elena met me here at the site, and we went through and basically staked out where we think we want the house. And that's important because that dictates where our driveway pad's gonna go. So we marked out about a 32 foot by about 60 foot pad where we're going to have right off the end of our garage, and then there's basically going to be a gradual sweeping drive all the way back to the right of way. You can see we made a white sort of sweeping line this way.
Here I'm explaining the nice little plan we laid out about how we were going to perfectly site the house and the driveway pad, but we completely threw that plan out the window when we realized the amount of cut and fill we were going to need to do. So we basically reoriented the house around 90 degrees. I'll talk about that a little bit later.
I should talk about this a little bit. I bought 2 rolls of this. They're 432 foot long by 12.5 foot wide. These are a woven geotextile fabric, basically strands of synthetic yarn woven together in a crosshatch pattern. And these will go down on our subgrade before all of our stone goes. And the primary reason is to separate the dirt from the stone so that over time, heavy trucks and traffic can't push the stones down into the dirt and start causing ruts and eventual driveway maintenance issues. What this fabric also allows us to do is forego using a heavy base rock on the base of the driveway. Instead, we're just going to use a very thick layer, about 12 inches of compacted 2A, which is that 2-inch minus stone, and that will provide just as good of support. I talked to actually some road builders, and this is basically the same approach they use for building legit roads and highways and that sort of thing. It's just a thick layer of that base rock on a very good compacted subgrade. I don't think they use the fabric, but for driveway applications on a hill like ours, it's a good thing to have. They worked a little bit more on the driveway as well yesterday. They cut a little bit further down the hill, but they're doing a really good job so far with the dozer. And then they also ran the compactor over it yesterday. So now it's a really hard, flat, smooth surface. And it's really a lot nicer even driving on this than it was before, just with the compacted dirt. So I'm gonna probably have them cut a little bit closer to our right-of-way markers here, cut this ditch a little bit closer, and then and we'll be almost ready for fabric and stone, which is probably gonna come tomorrow or Friday. Again, we are on a 6% grade here, so water will flow down this hill fairly fast. It's very important to control it. We are gonna put some swales in at the top, which are just basically shallow ditches that help direct and control the water before it starts going down this hill and starts picking up speed. So there is a 4 to 6% grade here, which is about a 5-inch drop from that side of the road to this side, which will allow water to slope this way. And then the grade actually steepens just a little bit here to form sort of a ditch. And that's what's gonna help channel the water. And we actually are gonna have a little diversion stone area to catch that water at the base of the hill here. One of the most important things we have to remember with this driveway is we still have to put our electric service in. So we have just up until those posts in order to put this trench, which is gonna be about 1 foot wide and about 3 foot deep. But we have to be able to get machinery in here and put that in. I actually really wanted to do this before the driveway, but there were some scheduling conflicts that held us back from that. So we're just gonna have to adapt and work through it. It's day 4 and stone has begun. That's 2 truckloads. We're running probably over 1 foot thick, which is good solid base. Graded about 4.5%, sloping that way into the ditch. Travis is gonna bring his mini over and help grade this or clean this one side up. But the strategy is we started at the top of the hill. We're rolling the fabric out as we go down, and the trucks are able just to drive right over it. It's pretty durable stuff. I was kind of surprised. But they're gonna roll over the roll coming in, turn around up here at the site, and then go back down and spread as we go. So we're about halfway through day 4, and unfortunately with yesterday's septic results, we decided in fact we're not going to try to bury these stumps. It's just going to be way too much of a pain to dig a hole that big. So sadly they're pretty much going back where the pile was, pretty much on our property line with the neighbors, and they're going to be tucked up a little bit more behind the trees anyway, so that will be at least a little bit better. And we did get rid of all the brush, so it is just going to be stumps. We'll just let them decompose over the years. Another thing, I trekked back through the woods and found a few places where there was enough clearing to get the machine back and dig some holes. I'm basically going to have the guys dig several, probably 4 or 5 holes that could potentially be used as septic sites, and just leave them open for the septic inspector to come back, and I can always fill them back in with the skid steer. And I'm really just crossing my fingers and hoping and praying we can find a spot. Luckily we have enough land to do that. We would have been straight out of luck if our property line ended really where the back of this clearing is. So it's a good thing that we have property going down the hill, and we're going to be using it. So stay tuned for the results of that next test, which probably going to be in a few weeks. Underway on day 5 here, and Travis brought his mini over with his tilt bucket. The reason for that was to cut the bank on this driveway, so it was kind of just a mounded thing where the dump truck drivers let it pile up a little bit, and now it's a nice smooth bank all the way down. As Travis cleaned up the edge, I carted the excess stone down the hill with the skid steer. and he also went over the dirt a little bit, so it should be a pretty easily maintainable ditch. Start of a new week. The goal for today is to finish where the driveway connects to the existing and get a couple more loads of stone up here. We decided not to do the pad right now just because we put Travis's laser up and there's actually like a 4-foot drop. You can hardly tell. The grade is so deceiving, but from the very front of the house where these dirt piles are sitting up here down to basically the burn pile, there's actually a 4-foot change in elevation. So we'll have to do 2-foot cut, 2-foot fill, something like that, and then blend it in with the surroundings. So we decided not to put the pad in just so that doesn't get in the way, and that is what Travis is going to start working on today, is cutting out the top of that hill just a little bit and adding it down here.
To give you a better idea of how we reoriented the house, this is how it used to be with the front of house facing south and parallel with the southern property line. And here it is now from the same angle. Putting the long edge of the house closer to the contour lines allowed the excavation to be a lot less substantial.
Sadly, I have to go back to work today. I took off all last week to hang out here on site and watch things as they progressed, but the old cubicle's calling me back in, unfortunately. And the reason we dug this trench back here with these dirt piles behind me is because of last week's debacle hitting all that rock when we went to do the septic pits. We were worried that having to do the 2-foot cut and 2-foot fill, that we'd be hitting a lot of rock during the cut. And actually this trench proved otherwise, at least I hope anyway. He dug about 3 foot deep with the excavator and it was mostly clean dirt, you know, just normal to be expected type of rocks. So I'm looking forward to seeing what it looks like when it's all graded out.
These track loaders can move a lot of dirt in a short period of time. The strategy was basically just to cut going down the hill until the bottom of the trench was reached as a depth guide and place it as fill a little bit further down the hill. Every 6 or 8 inches, the compactor came over it to make sure we had a good solid base.
So that's pretty much it for the first big phase of our site work here. Came a long way in a fairly short period of time and we're pretty happy with how it all turned out. So the next step is to get some grass seed down to help control erosion here, get our well drilled, finish all of our septic test stuff, update on that coming soon, and then get the first phase of our electric service run as well in preparation to start next year. And of course, I still have to finish all my plans. I've been slacking on that as well. So that will be a good winter's worth of work here. So stay tuned for plenty more. As always, if you liked our content, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button to share with others. Help out with the build by grabbing us a tool or some materials from our Amazon list. But regardless, we really appreciate you watching. See you next time.